Talking good for y'all. And then they want to go on tour. They want to go on tour without you.
Boosie Badazz, Torrance Hatch Jr., and T.I. Clifford Harris Jr. are two of the most iconic and influential figures in the hip-hop industry. They are men who have not only shaped the sound of Southern rap, but have also faced some of the most challenging legal battles that could have ended their careers before they even fully took off. They have seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, achieving fame and fortune, only to be hit with the cold reality of the legal system. Both Boosie and T.I. have spent time behind bars, their prison sentences serving as stark reminders of the lifestyle they once led and the consequences that come with it. Boosie, raised in the unforgiving streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, saw crime, drugs, and violence from an early age. The harsh reality of his environment made survival a daily challenge, and his music has always reflected that raw truth. His lyrics tell stories of struggle, pain, and the constant fight to rise above adversity. Unfortunately, Boosie's life took a dark turn in 2010 when he was charged with first-degree murder. Though he was eventually acquitted of the murder charge, he wasn't able to escape the legal system altogether. Boosie spent several years in prison on drug-related charges, and those years behind bars left a lasting impact on him. The experience shaped his view of the world, of freedom, and of his family, especially his children. T.I.'s story, while different in its specifics, shares many of the same themes. Raised in the bustling city of Atlanta, Georgia, T.I. had a natural talent for music from a young age. However, like Boosie, he was also drawn into the world of hustling and the street life that often came with it. T.I.'s rap career skyrocketed in the early 2000s, but it wasn't long before legal trouble began to follow him. In 2007, T.I. was arrested on federal gun charges, leading to a highly publicized trial and a year-long prison sentence. For T.I., this wasn't just another brush with the law, it was a turning point. After serving his sentence, T.I. vowed to turn his life around, focusing on his family and using his platform to advocate for change in his community. Despite their success and their commitment to leaving the past behind, Boosie and T.I. have found themselves facing a new challenge. Their sons, King Harris and Tootie Raw, Torrance Hatch III, appear to be walking dangerously close to the same path that their fathers once tread. For both Boosie and T.I., this realization is deeply troubling. They know all too well what the inside of a prison cell looks like, and they are determined to keep their sons from experiencing the same fate. King Harris, T.I.'s son, and Tootie Raw, Boosie's son, have been friends for years, growing up in the shadow of their famous fathers. While they've inherited their father's confidence and charisma, they've also inherited some of the risks that come with living under the constant gaze of the public and the pressures of a high-profile lifestyle. King and Tootie have had their share of run-ins with the law, but so far the trouble they've gotten into has been the kind that their fathers can easily fix, for now. Whether it's been getting into fights or minor legal issues, Boosie and T.I. have been able to swoop in and use their resources, connections, or name to resolve the situations before they escalate into something more serious. However, both Boosie and T.I. know that this kind of trouble, if left unchecked, can quickly spiral out of control. They are painfully aware of how easily minor brushes with the law can turn into felonies, prison time, or worse. T.I., in particular, has spoken openly about his fears for his son King. In a candid moment, T.I. described a scenario that is all too familiar to him. If the Motherf King 12 pull up and say, "Hey, who do you belong to?" Who raises their hand? Somebody gotta raise the hand. Possession of a firearm in the commission of a crime, that's a felony. His words were a stark reminder of the stakes involved. While King and Tootie's current legal troubles may seem minor, the reality is that they are playing a dangerous game, one that could have life-altering consequences if they aren't careful. For Boosie and T.I., the fear isn't just that their sons might get in trouble, it's that the kind of trouble they get into could land them in prison, where the consequences are far more severe than a slap on the wrist. Both Boosie and T.I. have spent years trying to move past their own legal troubles, but their time in prison has left a permanent mark on them. They know better than anyone what it's like to lose their freedom, to be locked away from their families, and to feel the weight of a prison sentence bearing down on them. For Boosie, those years behind bars were some of the darkest of his life. The isolation, the loss of control, the sense of hopelessness, these are experiences he never wants his son Tootie to go through. T.I., too, has spoken about the toll that prison took on him not just physically but mentally and emotionally. The fear of losing everything he had worked so hard to build, his career, his family, his freedom, was a constant presence during his time in prison. Now as fathers, Boosie and T.I. are doing everything they can to steer their sons away from that same fate. They've had difficult conversations with King and Tootie, trying to impress upon them the seriousness of the situation. But being the children of famous rappers comes with its own unique set of challenges. King and Tootie have grown up in a world where fame, wealth, and privilege are all they've ever known. They've seen their father's success and have lived in the lap of luxury, but they've also witnessed the dark side of fame, the legal battles, the public scrutiny, the constant pressure to live up to a certain image. For King, growing up as T.I.'s son has meant constantly being compared to his father. There's an unspoken expectation that he will follow in T.I.'s footsteps, whether in music or another high-profile career. But for King, the pressure to live up to his father's legacy has often led him to rebel against it. He's been caught in fights, has flaunted his lifestyle on social media, and has engaged in risky behavior that mirrors the very behavior that landed his father in prison. T.I., who has worked tirelessly to reform his image and build a better life for his family, watches with a mix of frustration and fear as his son seems to be repeating the same mistakes he made. Tootie Ross' story is similar. As the son of Boosie Badazz, Tootie has grown up in a household where his father's legacy looms large. Boosie has never shied away from being open about his past, and he's made it clear to Tootie that the life he once lived is not one he wants his son to emulate. Yet, like King, Tootie seems intent on forging his own path, even if that path leads to trouble. For Boosie, the fear is always there. The fear that one day the trouble will be something he can't fix, that the consequences will be too severe, and that his son will be facing the same fate he once did. For both King and Tootie, the challenge is finding their own identities in a world where their father's shadows loom so large. They've grown up with the benefits and privileges that come with being the sons of famous rappers, but they've also grown up with the burdens. Constant attention, the expectations, the pressure to live up to their father's legacies, all of it can weigh heavily on a young man. In many ways, their rebellious behavior is a reaction to that pressure, a way to assert their independence and prove that they aren't just their father's sons but individuals in their own right. However, for Boosie and T.I., the stakes are too high to allow their sons to continue down this path unchecked. They know all too well how quickly things can escalate, how one bad decision can lead to a lifetime of consequences. The legal system is unforgiving, especially for young black men, and Boosie and T.I. are acutely aware of the dangers that their sons face. While they've been able to intervene and fix things so far, they also know that they won't always be able to protect their sons from the consequences of their actions. In their efforts to steer King and Tootie in the right direction, Boosie and T.I. have tried a variety of approaches. They've had heart-to-heart talks with their sons, warning them about the dangers of the path they're on. They've shared their own stories of prison, not as a way to glorify their pasts, but as a cautionary tale. They've also tried to set a better example, showing their sons that it's possible to rise above the mistakes of the past and build a better future. But as any parent knows, sometimes it's hard to get through to a teenager who is determined to rebel.